I'm not the best I can compliment when compliments are meant to be given, but what I'm trying to say is I don't give them often, like truly saying how good these are. These are fantastic storytelling images. And I don't bullshit. So if I'm saying it, I truly mean it.
Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and I'm sure you can tell that this is already going to be a pretty extensive video because look at the length of it. It's probably clocking in over an hour at this point. But what I'm about to show you is a one-on-one mentorship that I did with a guy named Michael Milner. Now, his photos blew me away right off the bat, and he gave me permission to share this. I mean, honestly, why wouldn't he? Because it helps put his work out there. But I wanted to share with you a raw look at a mentorship call with me, not only because the work was fantastic and I was kind of jealous of some of the things, but you're gonna see my genuine reactions to the images as I look at them. Because I do not look at the images before we do the critique or before we do the one-on-one mentorship. Now, I load them in the Lightroom and I can see thumbnails, but I don't go through and take a look because I want people to see my genuine reactions. Now, I was so blown away by the work that he was doing that I had to share it with you guys because it is unique and it's amazing to see what you guys are able to do. Now, his work is coming across as super duper fantastic and he still wanted to get a mentorship. You don't need to have the greatest work in the world right now to have a mentorship. I still have people look at my work. I have Steven look at my work and give me his feedback. Whether I take it or not is another story, but the point is whether you just started, you're 6 months in, you're 2 years in, you're 20 years in, and you want to get some feedback on your work, I offer that to you. You can head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/mentorship. That's where you can sign up for a 45-minute one-on-one live mentorship call with me or a recorded 15-minute rapid fire critique. But what you're gonna see right now is Michael Milner's work and our one-on-one mentorship that went well over the 45 minutes. So at the end, I've got something to add because I looked at his Instagram after we had our call and I had some more advice to give him. So stick around to the end to do that. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the one-on-one mentorship.
I like to ask, what are you hoping to get out of this? Is always the first thing.
Well, a couple things, I guess. Your guidance, perhaps, and feedback as someone who has been and is a professional photographer and has done some of the kinds of things that I would like to do in terms of being out there photographing events, and particularly with what you did on the campaign trail. I really liked your videos, and well, I liked the photographs you took, but I also liked the explanatory videos, just giving your perspectives. I thought that was very helpful, and just your feedback and mentorship for someone like me who is really still relatively new in photography and looking to take that next step in the art of photography. And I'm not, and I will say up front, this is not a job for me. It's not, I have no aspirations of it being a job. I have the luxury of being retired and not having to work full time. So I don't need this as a moneymaker for me. It's nice. It's nice with the Getty images that I have been selling this year, and Shutterstock. It's nice with the exposure. The royalties, of course, are terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't need to look at this as how to grow my business necessarily.
Got it. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen so that we can look at the images together, and everything's recorded so that I can send it to you later so that you can watch it back.
Right.
I will tell you so I don't look at the images before we do this. I load them in, and the first thing I thought was, oh shit, this is going to be good, because I saw the thumbnails of all the black and white images, and I was like, okay. I'm like, all right. I'm seeing right off the rip. I mean, I loved oh Jesus, we got a Leica shooter.
I started with Leica, and you'll probably see a progression in terms of what I was shooting with and how I was shooting. I'll give you just a minute or two of backstory.
Yep.
It's been just over a year that I've been doing what I'll call the real photography versus the drone photography. I've been doing the drone photography for about 3 years, and decided that I wanted to do street photography. And so I got the Leica CL, and I was kind of just doing skateboarders around here and just street photography. And then this event in Selma had popped up, and I had been through there the previous year on this big motorcycle trip I took. And I said, I'm going to go back when they have the commemoration of the march. And at that point, I had added the Sony A9 II with the 35 millimeter 1.8 prime. And I really had no idea what I was doing going to this event, just in terms of the technical side of it, maybe a little bit, but just the practical side of it, I didn't have access. I didn't have media credentials. So that was kind of the backstory on that. And then as I was doing a bit more with the Sony, I decided I was not using the Leica as much, and tried a few different lenses, and then added a second Sony. So my go-to that I use most of the time now when I go out to these events is the A9 II and the A7R4.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, this is a fantastic storytelling image. Is the CL full frame?
No, it's the crop sensor, and I was using the 18 millimeter pancake lens, which I think it's about a 27 full frame equivalent.
I mean, the tones on this are incredible. The exposure is spot on. Your processing is gorgeous. I mean, it just pops. I don't know if that's a combination of Leica glass, which are fantastic for black and white, or that you've just done a fantastic job with the processing.
Probably more of the former and less of the latter. I would not consider myself an expert with Lightroom. I do the basic processing. For black and white, I prefer the punch preset, but that's a little extreme on some of the blacks and whites. So I'll usually bring that in a bit. Yeah.
This is great. The composition is spot on. Using the barrel that's out of focus, or I guess, is it an instrument or is it a barrel?
It was a drum. It was a barrel being used as a drum.
Got it. Perfect placement. Out of focus, draws you into the subject. It tells the story. I mean, I tell everybody on mentorship calls, I look for 4 things when I'm telling a photo story. You've got the wides. The wides establish a scene. They tell the story. The mediums. This is more like a medium shot. The tights come in tighter for like the portraits and the headshots that get those to get those interesting headshots. And then the details are things like the hands with the mallets and just all different types of things. And this falls into that medium-ish to tight type shot. It's great though, because we have the background, we have the people out of focus, and I love the processing. So, I mean, right off the bat, I just love that as a storytelling image. My question though is the aspect ratio. What is with the 4:5 aspect ratio?
I think most of them I had 4:3.
Or 4:3. What? How come?
Well, part of that was a recommendation from my wife. She's been doing photography a lot longer than I have, probably, I guess, over about 10 years or so, and that was her recommendation. I don't really have any other real basis for going in that direction for a lot of the photos.
Maybe she says that for 8x10 purposes, but for me, I mean, the whole sensor is 2:3 aspect ratio. So you're cutting some stuff out. So you're losing megapixels. I mean, it's personal preference. If you want to crop 4 or 5, the 4 or 5 after, by all means, go for it. I'm all about using the full frame to its full extent and that's me. It's all personal preference, but I use the full sensor. If it was a sensor that was 4.5, then that's how I'd shoot. Or if it was square, I'd shoot it square. I wouldn't do anything else. But for now, we got that out of the way. But this is fantastic. The processing's fantastic. The storytelling in this is fine. The car in the background is a slight is slightly distracting, but that's nitpicking, and that's why I just throw a lot of stuff out here that I wouldn't nitpick that to death, because the focus here is on the motorcycle, the cop, and it's fantastic because you have Selma in there. You've got Selma right here, and I instantly knew where it was. It's a very good shot in the whole story already. Okay, my criticism is cutting the foot off. That's it.
And I think that was a framing issue for me, where it wasn't there with the original framing, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the 4.5. I don't. I think it's actually a very nice thing. We used to have 4x5 cameras. I think this is a fantastic shot of the march. You have all of the people lined up over here. You've got some of the buildings, the American flag. It's fantastic. Sometimes we cut off people's feet. It's just one of those things that you hope to hammer home in your head that in the future you're like, feet. I'll take the picture, and then you realize it, and then you recompose and you get it. So that's just one of those things that over time you'll start to get. But this again is really good because that's your wide. Like this is your a wide shot. I mean, it's not super wide, and you're doing all this with this is the 35 1.8 on the A9.
And I think that was a limitation, and I was learning that having a prime lens for these events, you're either zooming with your feet or you're reverse zooming with your feet, and there were some logistical limitations on my freedom of movement in that particular area. But that does bring up a question that that's a good time to ask in terms of cropping. If you're, as far as what parts of the anatomy or how on the anatomy you prefer to crop. I've heard a few different things as far as when you are going to be, when you know you're cropping and you don't have the full body in there. What do you suggest?
So I'm an above the knee type person sometimes. Okay. So above the knee, sometimes maybe slightly below the knee, but definitely not at the ankles and definitely not at the feet. So it like we could probably get away with something. Well, I don't want to cut off the other person's foot, but you could probably get away with something like this, right? Because my thing is, if I look at it and it feels painful, like I did something wrong, then it probably is. But we also don't want to lose the flag. Right. So for me, it's like we don't cut off fingers. We don't cut off hands at the wrists. Right, the middle of the thigh is a good place for portraits or for women or for men is the middle of the thigh. Sometimes it's right below the knee, but it's rarely ever the ankles because that just looks like you should have just kept it in. Now, you mentioned the primes and the limitations they have, but the primes are going to give you such better contrast and such better depth. I mean, shit, you're at F9. That's insane. F9, I rarely ever, I mean, you're at F9. It looks great. I'm generally speaking, I'm at a 2.8 or better this day and age, or even if I have the 35 1.2, I'm shooting, I mean, even outside with the A9. So the A9 Mark II can go up to 1/32,000th of a second, places that no camera can do other than that one. So you can get away with shooting wider open, which will isolate the subjects, but you don't always need to isolate, now that I say that, because this does look fantastic the way it is at F9. The point I was trying to make is that I think you're going to love primes more than you love zooms.
Well, my favorite one that I use these days on the A7 R4 is the 135 f1.8 D Master. That's my favorite. And on the A9 Mark II, I'm usually using the Sigma 24-70 f2.8, based on your recommendation for that over the G Master for the for the value.
Yeah, I mean, I took that on the road with Bernie as well. My main lens ended up being the 35-1.2 out with Bernie. I just loved the 35-1.2. I just love the feel of it. Yeah. All right, let's keep going because these are really good. That's great. I mean, the funny thing is the Leica has a look. I as much as I bust Leica's balls and people that use Leicas, when it's done right, it has a look, and this is the look. The tones on this are fantastic. I don't mind the extra space up top in here. I don't mind that at all. I love the looks on these guys' face. It's great. This is a great storytelling moment that works throughout the entire story. And there you go. Yeah, I mean, that's great. That's great. I don't have much else to say other than it's fantastic. Your settings are very good. Your exposures are right on. You don't need to change anything there. Your compositions already are fantastic. Where you composed her, I mean, I didn't even see that other hand was cut off.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't detract. I didn't think it was bad, but you could take this, realize that, step back, or change your composition ever so slightly, or just be like, can you move that hand up just a little bit? Maybe. But it didn't really hurt me in this one, even though I'm not a fan of cutting things off at the wrist. I think the entire scene means more to me than that, because it's an important place. Again, that's fantastic. I rarely shoot at f8, and I'm not saying, I wonder if it's a detriment to me not doing f8 in certain situations, because here, I mean, it looks.
I don't very often. This was, like I said, this was the first time I'd been out trying to photograph an event like this, and it was just kind of trial or error with knowing that I wanted to kind of, in some of the scene establishing shots, be able to get that greater depth of field, I guess. And so I did experiment a bit with the higher aperture setting.
I mean, again, it's fantastic. The storytelling, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, so far we are telling an awesome story. This is fantastic. Again, I mean, how many more people were to the right and the left in the line?
I think those were the last ones that are kind of half cut off. And
yeah,
I wish I could have walked back a little, I guess, and maybe gotten all of them in there completely. But I had I had the rest of the parade was like breathing down my neck.
Yeah, I could imagine. So it's still fantastic the way it is. I love that the light is that a red light down at the bottom, or is that a green light's up? No, green
at the bottom.
That's a green light at the bottom. So I mean, we know where this is because of the bridge in the background. The composition is great. The arms locked, the black and white. It's a fantastic photojournalistic story so far. These are fantastic. You're like, a lot of times I do this, I'm sitting here tweaking people's files, saying, try this, there's not enough contrast, and here's the difference. I'm not touching your edits because your edits so far have been really good. Composition here, fantastic. You like the little things like leaving breathing room over here on the left, so that her hip and leg, they're not touching the edge of the frame, and you still have room left here for breathing. Like, I love stuff like this. Those are subtle things that most people, you can't teach it. It's like a feel. So you left room over here and there's room over there. So I just kind of, for me, it's like a visual thing. You see that and you're like, all right, that keeps them in the image. But this is great.
And just by way of background, as far as what a lot of the upcoming photos are, I living in southeastern Georgia near Brunswick, and of course that's where the incident happened with Ahmaud Arbery last year. Terrible incident, and tragic circumstances that presented me with an opportunity to go to all of these rallies and marches and protests that have been happening either at the courthouse or around town, and has just given me kind of a crash course in terms of that photojournalism approach to photographing these events. And so this was the first one back in May at the courthouse. and I was still at the time with the Leica CL and the A9 II with the 35 millimeter prime. And you'll see as we get into the different events, I transitioned to the different lenses of the different cameras.
So I'm kind of like jealous of the stuff you're getting out here. I personally have trouble, like I didn't go out to any of the protests here in Philly. I just didn't, but seeing the images you're getting makes me wonder, would I be able to tell that same story? And in some cases I have trouble seeing the story, you know, and I need that main focus of Bernie or the main character that I'm telling the story of, but you were telling the story of the march, the event, and telling the story. So sometimes I get in my own head and don't go out. So, you know, this stuff is fantastic right now.
And these were all fortunately very peaceful, with the exception of there was one minor flare up at one in Savannah where I captured one of the photos. But these were all very civil, and the family, the Arbery family, has seen me at all of these things, and so I've you know, established a sort of informal relationship with the family where, you know, they'll see me and they trust me, and they're happy to see me there taking pictures, and I'll send them some of the better photos, and I'll let them pick out ones that they want. And it's good for them as a family to have that, because after the news networks and the big papers stopped coming to these events, I'm pretty much the only one there. And I was looking at the number of events I'd been to. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say I probably have the greatest number of photos of the Arbery related events of anybody, period. Because oftentimes at these smaller events, I'm the only person there taking pictures other than people with iPhones. This is
another fantastic shot. The fact that you have the light coming through the paper, the fact the way you composed it, the way you did with the starburst, you know, did you shoot at f/14 because you wanted a starburst?
Yes.
So just the thinking behind, like, I would say that's stuff that never goes through my mind, that I'm learning from the picture, that's something I should keep in the back of my head to do is something like that. Because this is fantastic, because it obviously has such a deeper meaning behind it. So great composition, great storytelling. That's another fantastic one. Yeah, I mean, this is fine. This is just capturing people out there doing their thing. The tones look good. Great composition, using the railing out of focus to draw you in, creates the natural frame. Perfect.
And so this is an artist from Miami, but he's originally from Brunswick, and he was painting a mural of Ahmaud Arbery on a building, and I had read about it in the paper and went over there and met him while he was painting it, and chatted with him and really established a good relationship with him.
Yeah, again, the detail. So, all right. So what I would say, I don't know if you have this or don't have it. Do you have a wider of the wall? That's like a photo of him. Right.
I do.
So you have that.
I've got several. I've got kind of like an establishing shot of the mural. I've got kind of a medium one of him at work, and then I've got a good tight one, more of a portrait one of him. I just included this one due to the limitations of how many I could include. I thought were my better shots.
Good. Yeah. I mean, details of the paint, because it's just amazing how thick the paint is going on. Looks fantastic. That's really good.
And this was at another rally that was just a few days later. Might have even been the next day.
Great tones on it. Yeah, I mean, just such details and emotion being captured. 1/8,000th at 2. Got it. Looks good.
And just by way of background, that's Mr. Arbery, Ahmaud's father, and you might see him. I think I have him in a few of the photos I included.
Got it. Yeah, that's great. Yes, really good too. Yeah, that's fantastic.
First day I was trying to play with reflections, and they're tricky, but I really like it when I can get the focus.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee, I bet you the A9 was able to pick up eyes in the reflection, right?
Oh yeah, it's an amazing camera, and that was I had rented that day. I rented the 135 G Master from Lens Rental if I liked it, and I loved it. and went ahead and bought it after that event.
Yeah, that's my. So I don't take a 70 to 200 with me anymore when it comes to the Sony kit. I take the one. I keep the 135 as my long lens. Yeah, so it's 35 1.2. I'll have a 24 to 70. I'll have the 14. Now I have the 12 to 24 Sony.
I have that one as well. I haven't, and this will probably sound like a petty complaint. I don't like swapping out lenses when I'm at one of these events. There's just so much going on. It's just so dynamic that short of having 3 Sony camera bodies, I haven't been using the new 12 to 24 very much.
Got it. I'm the other way. I switch a ton. I switch a lot of lenses, but I try to anticipate what to have on. But look, the choices that you're making here are really good. My only, not only, but one of the things I'll say is be careful with the 135 that you just start taking everything so tight, and that it doesn't give you convey the same message like this sun photo. Right. And then these types of photos. These to me are more impressive for telling the story. You get up and close in there, and then 135 starts to feel like it's becoming just snapshotty and too tight because it's not really getting the rest of the message. Now, I'm sure you have other images that go with it, but just keep that in mind, that the super tight stuff like this, it starts to lose some of the impressive nature of the other ones. They're good for details. They're good detailed shots, and the editing is great. I love the lighting on this one and the shirt in the background. That's great. Huh.
Just trying to shoot through a car window there for something different.
Yeah, that's good too. I mean, for me, it's continued to tell that story. This is great, but I love the work you did with the 35 because it gets you up in there. It makes you feel more like this. To me, this is like, I'll tell people, if you're in Paris and you do a portrait like this under the Eiffel Tower and you can't tell that it's the Eiffel Tower, what does it matter? You could have taken it at home or anywhere in the world. So I see the reflection in the eyes, in the glasses. So you do have that. It's just be careful that it doesn't become too tight and it doesn't tell the story.
No, that's a very good point. And I think I probably have fallen into that trap, so to speak, with the 135 at some of these my favorite shots, just because of the super clear focus and it's just such a great lens. Mm-hmm. But I am supplementing it with stuff from the 24 to 70. But yeah, that's a great point.
And this right here, I was going to say, like, look, like this, you're getting up and close and it's showing the scene, but that's because it's at 35 and it's fantastic. But this is great. The colors are great that the tones you're pulling out of it. Even with the Sigma, the 24 to 70 are great.
And that's the mayor of Savannah. He was kind of at the center of the march that was going on. And one of the benefits of being not too tall and not too wide is I can sort of work my way into the good spots to get some of these shots.
Yeah, and that's another thing you're doing is you're getting to the right places, and it seems like you're not afraid to go where you need to go. And that's great. This is where it starts to get a little too tight. And so does this make sense to have the 12 to 24 on for something like this? Will that be better than shooting it at 38? Would 24 be slightly better to show more of the scene with other people kneeling? Just things to keep in mind. That's a nice contrasty, great light. Obviously you have the Rembrandt lighting on there. The triangle next to the nose is perfect. So that's a really good one. Still, it's on the tight side, but obviously this is good. You're wide. Using the speakers, the people speaking out of focus to draw you in is great. You have all of the different signs and people in the background, so that's awesome. And then this is where I start to lose it sometimes. This was my problem going out to the protests. It's just like this stuff over and over, right? It's like, it's not the Selma, it's not with the bridge in the background. Like the bridge stuff is fantastic. And I mean, the tones and everything are great. You are getting unbelievable editing out of this. Great black and whites. Is this
that was the little flare up between the guy who was slamming a skateboard on the ground on the right, and the guy on the left who was telling him to chill out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The tones are super nice. All right.
And I was trying to experiment with some motion blur while focusing in on the one person.
Love it. Like, I love the experiment. I remember, so I started shooting at 13. So 14, 15 years old, I'm in high school, and the teacher is like, you're great at freezing action of sports. Like, you're shooting hockey. I'm like, well, everything should be frozen. He's like, well, see what happens if you slow the shutter down. But this was film days, so you don't get to see your results. And I was shooting from the penalty box in the Flyers game, and I did a slow shutter speed, and the player is panning across, and it looks amazing. It was just like, wow. And now that with digital, obviously it makes it much easier to mess around. But this is fantastic. I love adding motion to this. So if you had one person standing still holding a sign, and then everybody moving in the background, and you did that at 1/8 of a second, and they're frozen, but you get motion. It's like, it conveys the moment much better.
I try to remind myself to do more of that when I'm out of these events.
Mm-hmm. This is a cool angle, getting down low and getting that shot. Yeah, it looks really good. And this is where you step back. This is where you step back and you get their feet in there, because cutting them off at the ankles, everybody there doesn't
Sure.
work. It still works as an image. Don't get me wrong. This would be perfectly fine in the story. I just think that you back up, you get that shot with the full bodies, then you come in a little closer and you get the two of them, whether you do it vertical or horizontal. Well, I'm just playing. I'm not saying you would do this crop, but you come in, you get the light. I don't know if I would like it or not, but so my whole thing is, being that I don't crop any of my images, I will get the shot that I'm looking for, get that, then I'll step in closer or zoom in or find the different compositions and just try different angles, and then pick the winning shot after. But you're picking the winning shots time and time again, which is great. Awesome tones. You have the building in the background, so people, that tells the story. That's really good as well. Yeah, I mean, you're in a fantastic position to get these shots.
I got my hand stepped on by the AP photographer to get that shot.
Yeah, I'm really blown away by the work. It's fantastic. It makes me feel jealous about some of the stuff that I didn't shoot. That's really, it's like, damn, these are great. The angles, the tone, like these tones are fan-freaking-tastic. I'm like, well, I want to pull tones like this, which I think I do, but seeing them all together is really good.
And I'll tell you that I had processed all of these except for Selma in color originally to have on Shutterstock for editorial use sales, and then in advance of this mentorship, I went back and did the black and white on them, because that's actually what I like more. I prefer the black and white. It's just that for the stuff that I'm pushing over onto Shutterstock, of course, they want color for the various publications that buy.
Well, you know what I would do? I would deliver it the way that you want to deliver it, regardless of what they want. Because somebody's going to want the black and white story, and right. You may not. I just think you, as this storyteller, your black and whites are amazing. This stuff is fantastic. I would deliver it and be like, look, put it up there, see what happens. This is the story I want to tell. This is documentary style work. This is like, do you know much about the history of photography?
I've learned a bit over the past year or so through our photo club, and also through some reading I've been doing.
Like, look up Gordon Parks. Gordon Parks there's an anthology of 5 books of his work. And so in 1948, he walks into Life magazine, and as an African-American photographer, which there weren't a lot, and he gets a gig for Life, working for Life magazine. It's incredible. And his storytelling images, his photojournalistic stuff is awesome. Instagram has a Gordon Parks Foundation, or there's on there that's Gordon Parks Foundation on Instagram. Unbelievable images, like very similar to this photojournalistic style. He also wrote Shaft. He directed Shaft. Yeah, he passed away a bunch of years ago, but his work is fantastic. I mean, I've got some other Gordon Parks stuff where his stuff with Muhammad Ali, great photojournalistic work. So do you see how I cropped this one?
Yes.
That's the legs. And I know they're walking and it's a lot more difficult, but that's the ankles, but I just think that, you see the difference there?
Yes.
And that feels like the better composition for him. Because that's like almost to the feet. And then that just feels better. Yeah, great tones. Again, just a sharpness. The IAF is definitely helping, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That makes me really have even more respect for these folks who were doing it years ago with manual focus.
Exactly. And people complain. They're like, oh, what did we do years ago when we didn't have that? And I just say, what did you do before cars? You had a horse. Did you continue to ride a horse to work, or did you get a car? So if we have this technology, so what I tell people is that the technology in these cameras allow me to capture things that I otherwise would have missed with moving focusing points and relying on that old school way of shooting. Now I'm able to capture moments that I would have never gotten if I didn't have the technology in the cameras to allow me to just focus on composition. Because when you don't have to worry about the focus as much, because it goes to where you want it to go, your images just start to be incredible. Very good.
That one I just found out, someone bought it on Shutterstock and they're using it on their book cover.
Oh, wow. You never know what people are going to use, because you never know what people are going to use, because this isn't the strongest of the bunch, but you never know what people are going to use.
Let me jump in here real quick and say I hope you're enjoying this video. And if you're looking for a one-on-one live mentorship call with me or a recorded 15-minute rapid-fire critique, head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/mentorships, because you can see other free full examples of a one-on-one call and a 15-minute rapid-fire critique over there. And you can read testimonials. And if you'd like to sign up, please go ahead and do that, because I would love to help you out with your photography. Now, let's get back to the video.
One thing I try to do when I'm at the marches or the rallies is try to get these reaction shots of people who were there, whether it's law enforcement. You know, coming from a law enforcement background, I like to get photos of the law enforcement officers that are there on the scene, because that can tell a good story, I think, also. But also, just like if you're marching through a neighborhood, just these folks who are seeing this happen. I try to, that's kind of on my shot list, so to speak.
I just tightened the contrast up on this one just a smidgen. I just feel like it could use just a little more to match the rest of your other stuff, because your tones are fantastic. That's great. I mean, come on, like really great shot out on the street. You know, you still see everybody in the background. You see this person right here cheering on the bike. I mean, that's great. It's another great shot. That's great with the kid crying. Very good. Yep, that's great. There's your details. And then these, after a while, they're not as impressive. But you need to take these because you never know when the impressive stuff's happening.
Right. And I was looking at the numbers. I think this reflects upwards of 24 different events total, maybe.
Yeah, got it. This I possibly would I mean, composition is fine. I would also step back and get their full bodies in there. Or go to the 24. All right, that's very good too. And this is the type I can live without.
Okay.
Just because it's like, you know, it's, yes, it's good to have. I'm not saying don't take it, but this type of stuff is just stronger. The woman on the bike, finding that type of stuff is just strong. That kid, I mean, come on, the light on his face, like this is stronger. It's stronger than just the people. Or I had to do it. I had to go a little more contrast on it. See the difference?
Yep.
Just a little bit. Yeah. It's good. Yeah, it's fine. That's very nice. Great tones. Yeah, and I've also learned that 70 millimeters makes things look like snapshots in a lot of places.
Yeah.
You know, you look at this and you're like, it's good. It shows you the scene, but it just doesn't pop. Maybe if it's like, you know, an 85 1.4 or something, maybe you start to see some dimension with that. But I've seen like at 70, it's like, well, sometimes it just doesn't seem to work at 70. Though one of my Bernie shots, I think, is at 70. Oh, good. It gives you search information. Photo stories, Bernie, one of the better ones. That's back focused, by the way, but nobody will notice it, was this. And I never saw the Bernie sign over here to the right. I never saw them holding this. I didn't even see that till after the picture was taken because I was trying to focus on him. And then I found out later that they plant these in every location. They have staffers have signs that match in different areas. But yeah, no, I mean, your black and whites are incredible, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong a little bit sometimes.
Well, you kind of you play the hand you're dealt in terms of the event that you're at. I
Yeah,
think, to some extent.
So this, I would make sure you get his hands in there. Just
Okay.
less head space here, because you don't need all that dead space here, but less head space. Get his hands resting there, right below the hands, maybe the belt, and then that's it. It's just changing, just tilting down just a little, because that would be fantastic. I mean, it's still good. What were you going for in this one?
The mural, the finished mural in the background.
Got it. Nice. And there you go, wide. That's your 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks great. Nice tones, nice everything. Just making sure we're sharp on that. I think we are. It's good.
So one question, like on a photo like that, and I've been a little more mindful of this lately, is I kind of my default was to shoot wide open at 1.8 with the 135, but I'm sure there is such a thing as too much bokeh in the background, and that's such a powerful lens that I was finding that even someone who's just a little bit off plane with them is a bit blurry, when I probably should have gone with a slightly higher aperture setting. And so I'm sure there's a sweet spot for.
Yeah. I mean, 2.5, 2.8, 3.2, but I'm just looking back at a lot of the other stuff. I mean, some of these ones that you did f5 on, it's just interesting to see that they pop really well. But even though this is 1.8 and that looks fine. So because that's a 35, the longer the lens, the more compression you're going to get.
Right.
So at 135, it's going to compress the heck out of the background, and you start to lose the story. And like, again, if you're at the Eiffel Tower and you take a picture at 1.8, at 135, you won't even know it's Paris. So you just have to then play with it to see, is the background important in this scene to tell that story? Or are we just so focused on the subject that that's what matters, the subject? So it's just finding the mixed ground. But this at 135 is great because it's about the two of them right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a shift. This one I don't like because of the look on the face on this one.
Okay. Yeah, it was a 5K charity race.
Mm-hmm.
I was back at the courthouse after one of the bond hearings, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See the difference though with the zoom lens versus the prime?
Mm-hmm.
You instantly know that it's not as dynamic.
Right.
Like the tones, you just can't pull the same tones out of it. And look at it does have some vignetting around the edges, which I don't care about. I like the natural vignette, but it's just, you can see the difference between the primes. That's why I wouldn't throw away my primes in favor of the zooms. Just, you're doing a great job moving your feet and finding the shot. And you're doing great work with the 35, and that is an unbelievable lens for documenting. Not saying that well, here's a 12 to 24. I just had to throw the more contrast in this one. Yeah. And this is one of those that I, can do without.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's something that I'm missing totally about it. It's just somebody at the event. The kids, yes, like that makes more of an impression. And this is just somebody there. You got to get, like, this is much better because of the angle, the look, the tones on the face. That's good too. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna. There's not much I can say about it. I like storefronts. If the cars weren't there and you could get flat on with the storefronts in front of you and getting people walking with the stores in there wide, that's here. I'm gonna pull up Bernie again. There was so the story behind. There's a shot that I was with them in Iowa, and we stop the bus to do this, to take a walk, right? To take a walk with nobody around at all. And he just wanted to take a walk with his wife and the grandkids. And, they have a snowball fight, and then they start to walk back. And there was a shot where they were walking across a crosswalk, and I was on the other side of the street, and I didn't see it until it was too late to get the entire family in the crosswalk. Not kind of Beatles-esque style, but it was like a thing. They were holding hands, walking across. Like, I missed that. So I had that in my mind. And then later on that night, there's this hallway. This is a test shot, but I liked it of him, his deputy campaign manager. Now, the senator was going to be walking through this back area to go to the kitchen. And I already pre-visualized how I was going to capture him going through the kitchen. I wanted to get the shot of them from the side.
I remember this from your video.
And some people comment like, why did you shoot it so wide? The point is, I love showing the behind the scenes of walking through this back area. If it was just a tight shot without the kitchen in there, you kind of lose out on everything. This is done with the A9 II, I believe.
It could be anywhere. That conveys a specific story. Right.
You've got the family, you've got security, you've got a campaign manager. The angle looks to be off ever so slightly with these tiles I see in the floor. The unbelievable thing was how fast this happened. Like, I literally bailed on this shot as they started coming down because the security guy was blocking the senator. So I bailed, ran around the corner, switched lenses from the 135 to the 14 to 24 Sigma, and then planted myself there, got the camera, got it locked on, hit the button for the recording, because that's another thing. I record every EVF. So that was something I had to do. Just as they were coming around the corner, autofocus nailed, brrr, done. And it's just, the stuff happens so fast. But yeah, your stories are fantastic. I like the wider stuff. I like some of this thrown in. Like these tones are great. That's really cool to tell the story. Perfect angle. I mean, it's just great because you have all the people sitting there. That's really good as well. Great tones.
So this was the first nighttime event that I shot, and I'm really I'm really not comfortable shooting at nighttime yet. Just I guess I'm a little afraid of the higher ISO
don't be.
settings with getting too grainy.
Don't worry about it. Like, I mean, 1/60th is fine. I mean, but outside, I'm probably going up to 12,800 just to give myself more leeway in case something happens. But this is perfectly fine. Don't be afraid of the higher ISO. Your A7R4 can handle it. The A9 II is going to handle it slightly better. But you know, you've got 61 megapixels. It does need more light generally. But this is fine at 1/160th of a second. Just know that if you start to get into a situation where the subjects are walking and you need to freeze them and you need a faster shutter speed, I'm of the school of thought that I'd rather have a higher ISO with a faster shutter speed that captures the moment and freezes it than have one where it's slightly blurry but has better grain, because I'd rather have that sharper image with noise. But the tones on this are great. Again, the tones are great. Two people under an umbrella. You know, it's just like, doesn't convey the story as well as some of the other,
out of context,
some of the other shots. Right. This is great. That's a great detailed shot.
I went back and forth on that last one about cropping his head out and just having the sweatshirt in the foreground and then her completely in the background. I don't know what's a better photo, frankly.
How'd you take it?
He was all in there.
So I'm still of the school of thought where I won't crop. I will compose it the way I want it in the camera and then kick myself after the fact that I didn't get it right or something, but I'm not cropping personally. In my personal preference, my reasoning for not doing it is that I do not want to second guess every single composition that I take. So I don't want to second guess every picture and start tweaking it. That's just personal preference. That's up to you. I mean, it still looks great.
Okay, thank you. But
that's just a school of thought for me. I mean, everything that I've seen here is fantastic. Like the compositions are spot on. So the way that whether it's cropped or not cropped, your compositions, you're seeing the right compositions. And that's fine. Yeah. But that's his father. I get it. So that's better because in the context of who it is and it says it on his shirt, much better. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, I like that. Great with the kid. Obviously, the eyes are fantastic. That works. This is great. Because it's wide, but you're close. Like, that's the thing. It's like wides that are get you close are awesome because they tell such a story, but there's the details right on him. But even at 2.8, it still looks great in the background. Yeah, and the 100 ISO is, I mean, it's just perfect. Settings are spot on. So for the reflection stuff, I'm a big fan of reflections in these buildings or in storefronts, but I kind of like a little further back. And if there's a storefront or something like a windows, a front window that has mannequins or whatever, I kind of like having that. And then you can see the reflection and it's like, there's something in front of you, you're seeing what's behind you. It just creates such a mind meld that it's interesting. And I think this may be a little too tight on the door, just a little too tight. These are, yeah, fine. Yes, using the tripods to draw you into the frame. Perfect. All day long, I love doing that because you're using these two natural things. 'Cause if these tripods aren't there, then it's just more of a snapshot. But because the tripods are there and they're perfectly composed in the V, it draws you right into the main subject. And so that's an awesome shot. All the big flags in the background in focus, out of focus are great. That one, not as much, unless it says, were you going for the tattoo?
I was going more for the hand on the back, like the emotional support for the mother. Her son had been killed by the police in Jacksonville.
All right. Is this a rainbow flag that says "Don't tread on us"?
Yep.
Interesting. This guy's in a bubble. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what his story was, but he was there in a bubble.
Obviously, I see what's going on here. That's great. Nitpicking on this, I would potentially try to get as straight as possible with the building.
Okay.
Like flat on. Not saying that it's not good at all. I would be curious to see how does it look if you are straight flat on. But
I do have some. I do have some that I got that were straight on. I just did not include them in this.
Yeah, I mean this still feels really good, and that's the last one we got here. But this is like I said, when I loaded them in without looking, and I saw the thumbnails small on the screen, I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting because of all the black and whites. I personally, I mean, these are. I'm not the best. I can compliment when compliments are meant to be given, but what I'm trying to say is I don't give them often, like truly saying how good these are. These are fantastic storytelling images. And I don't bullshit. So if I'm saying it, I truly mean it. Your style is awesome. The photojournalistic style is totally, you get the message across. You're telling the right stories. Your black and whites are fantastic. I would not deliver the colors to the agencies. I would put them up as photo stories and let the Time magazines or whoever still exists out there that wants to CNN, the websites, this stands out so much better than if it was in color. And I think that people will run black and white images because they convey a different message. They aren't as overdone as color. Now, color works in many situations. I'm drawn to, like, I'm like 75%, 80% black and white images in my stories. And this is fantastic. So I would whether they like it or not, just tell them to put it up. Just be like, put it up. You never know what's going to sell. And I don't want it in color. This is the story that I want to tell.
I sincerely appreciate certainly the compliments and the guidance on the black and white. That is my personal preference. Of course, there are some where the color tells the story better. I think you asked about whether that was a rainbow flag in the color version. Obviously, that jumps right out at you. That's
it does, flag. But does it skew the image because now it becomes so everything else is in color. So you have the parking garage in color. You have if somebody's wearing a bright sweater in color. And does it start to take away from the image? That's another thing that starts to happen. Yeah, I see it says "Don't tread on us," and it kind of feels like a rainbow flag. It still came across to me, right? And I think that if it was in color and the sky was all blue and all these, it may become distracting. The color may be distracting. So it all depends on the situation, but yeah, fantastic job all the way around.
Well, thank you. The big challenge for me moving forward is just, and I know it sounds so cliche, getting that big break or just being able to get established in that photojournalism world, because I don't have a photojournalism background. I don't have a journalism background. I'm retired federal law enforcement executive. And I've tried a couple of times. I'm with Getty, but I'm on the creative side with mainly the drone photography. And I've tried a couple of times to break through on that editorial side for Getty, and I just can't seem to I can't seem to even get a response from them. It's like it's going into a black hole. And
Yeah.
Shutterstock, yes, I'm getting some exposure, and I'm getting, the people from around the world are buying some of the photos, and I see them pop up online in different news articles, but I don't feel like I'm having that impact that I want in terms of being able to tell stories that, particularly here in the Brunswick area with the Ahmaud Arbery situation, that no one else from a photojournalism perspective is being able to tell this story outside of some of the bigger events where you've got AP and the Getty guy who's there. I just don't know how to take that leap.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that some of the images here are better than what the Getty photographers are getting than just a normal stringer. The top of the top that you see in the Washington Bureau that are with the president and all of that, those cool people are getting fantastic results. I don't know how to tell you where to go for that, unfortunately. Like you're with Getty. I mean, it's just a matter of reaching out to whether it's different organizations. Was it the NAACP? Is it Black Lives Matter? Is it what are these organizations that have different publications or different reach that you could work for them directly? I like working for people directly when they give me the access, like the Bernie stuff. I like that I have access to do whatever the hell that I want to do. Getty. So you're either with the press or you're with you're in the crew. And when you're in the crew and you get better access, you can tell better stories. Because when I was out with Bernie, the press is over here and I'm in the room with the senator, right? And they don't have access to that. So they're just getting what they can get. So I would, if there's events coming up or there's people that you want to photograph, there's people, the stories that you want to tell, reach out to them directly, reach out to their handlers or PR people, put together your best of the best stories and be like, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like access to do this. And whether you want to sell them or not through Getty, they may ask, like, what do you want to do with them? They may not be happy with that if it's for Getty, but if it's for them or they have nothing to worry about, then they may let you in because the work speaks for itself.
Well, thank you. And like I said, I'm not in it for the money.
Right.
I'm so fortunate that I don't need to worry about that aspect of it. And I do have, you mentioned NAACP. I've got very good relations with NAACP here in Georgia, particularly with the president, the state president. I can, can text him right now if I needed to ask a question or about upcoming events. So certainly got that piece of it covered. But you brought up a good suggestion, and I'm definitely going to work with it. Next year, you may or may not know, is the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacre.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got several days of events planned. And I've been thinking about how to sort of put together a pitch to them in terms of access to just get good access to be able to photograph and document those commemorative events they're going to have next summer.
Well, your work will do it. So put together the best photo story you want from all of these things, because the images are great. And what I was going to say is, think about the projects you want to do, and then go to those, pitch it to them and just show them the work. Like, this is what I want to do. It doesn't cost you anything. Like, tell them, I'm not looking to get paid. I'm looking to create the story. If you want to buy things, like, I'll let you use them for online usage or whatever. If you'd like to purchase something, we can work something out that's mutually beneficial. But I want to tell this story. And in order to tell the story that I want to tell, you have to give me the access. But it's a great trade, because you're getting these great images, I'm getting the access to get the images, and we're going to be able to help people and tell an awesome story.
That sounds like a good approach. I'm definitely going to do that.
So
I know we've gone a little bit over on time.
I
really appreciate your time.
I got a message, so I didn't know what it was. No, we go over. I don't mind going over. It's just really good. Really good stuff. Fantastic work.
No, I appreciate it. And you've really been a great source of information and inspiration through the work that you've done. And I go back to some of your videos time and again to just try to remember and to use some of the tricks of the trade that you've mentioned.
Awesome.
And I've gotten a lot out of this, definitely.
Great. Awesome. I may ask, I know Steven yells at me because I don't record these in the greatest quality ever, but if I wanted to put this up as like a full-on thing, would there be would you have a problem if I put this up out into the world on the YouTubes?
No.
I just think that it's fantastic work, and I
thank you.
I like showcasing great work.
And I will add, in terms of hopefully getting some Philly cred. My dad's from South Philly, born and bred.
There you go.
Tasker.
Fifth and Tasker. All right.
Well, again, thanks so much for this.
Yep.
And there are a couple of events coming up that I will definitely be at, and I will put into practice everything that you've passed along today.
Awesome. Really nice job. And that's it. Yeah. Let me know how your stuff. You have the Instagram. You have the Instagram up.
I do. I am on Instagram. It is. It's.
Yeah. What is it?
It's McGarrett, which is McGarrett 91. McGarrett 91.
Got it. I will take a look.
Great. Thank you, Jared.
Awesome. Again, great job.
So what'd you think? Did you enjoy the one-on-one mentorship call where we took a look at Michael Milner's photos? I am still blown away, even a few days after doing this one-on-one mentorship, by the quality of work that he has. But I will tell you something. I looked at his Instagram after we had the call, and I had to send him more advice because I didn't like the direction his Instagram was going. It was just a hodgepodge of just random types of shots that were not as good as what he had with what we just saw. And so I said to him, I sent him an email along with the video recording. I'm like, look, I looked at your stuff, and if you're trying to do more photo stories, I would stop what you're doing on your Instagram right now, and I would take the black and white images that we saw here. If there's 100 of them, how many are there? There's 100 of them. I would start posting those types of images one after the other, or maybe 1 or 2 a day, 10 a week, whatever it is. You've got 100 of them. Showcase that type of work. That's the stuff you should be showing on your Instagram, because people are going to look you up after you ask to do a job. You go to them, and because I gave them that advice, call some of these nonprofits or these organizations and offer up your services. They're going to go look at your Instagram, and I think you should put that foot forward. That's the type of work that you should show. So I gave him more advice after the call, which was for his Instagram to do this. So again, if you would like to get a mentorship call, look, it doesn't matter if you just started. It doesn't matter if you're not happy with your work. That's the point of the mentorship. He saw that he needed some suggestions. And I do the mentorships a little different depending on how long somebody's been shooting, because everybody needs a little bit of something different when you're doing a critique or you're doing a mentorship. If you just started out, I'm not going to sit there and be like, why didn't you know how to do this? Why didn't you do that? I'm going to walk you through the things that you can do to get better. I'm going to analyze each picture with you. We're going to go over composition. We're going to edit it. We're going to show you different types of things that you could do to get better. And if you take one thing out of the call or the critique, and that makes you better, then my job is done. I hope you take a hell of a lot more than just one thing, but that's what I have to say about that. So if you'd like to sign up, go to FroKnowsPhoto.com/mentorship. You can get a one-on-one mentorship. You can get a rapid-fire critique. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.